Hi everyone, I'm Vinny Bactano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the Slauson Malone album, A Quiet Farwell, 2016 to 2018. This is the debut full-length solo album of Slauson Malone, aka Jasper Armstrong Marsalis, son of jazz musician Wynton Marsalis. Malone is also a member of Standing on the Corner, an experimental music collective based out of New York that you might have caught a feature credit from on Earl Sweatshirt's last full-length album, Some Rap Songs, which is something, honestly, I had forgotten about going into this album, and I had basically just tried it off of the generous buzz I had seen swirling around it online, and I'm very glad I did. This project of tracks recorded from 2016 to 2018 features a truly unique collision of sounds and influences. Obviously, jazz and hip-hop sits pretty firmly at the base of what Malone is doing on much of this record, not only given his previous output, especially with the Standing on the Corner collective, but also his family background. But the 20 pieces throughout this record also feature elements of glitch and plunderphonics and sound collage, some of which has been a cornerstone of hip-hop for a very long time when you're talking about some of the most significant and cutting-edge producers and samplers in the genre, the Bomb Squad, Steinsky, Dust Brothers, DJ Shadow. But in comparison, A Quiet Farwell is very different from all of that, much more abstract and surreal. Partially what's here seems like the logical conclusion to the West Coast beat scene that was very much fostered by Flying Lotus's Brainfeeder Records, with of course a bit of J Dilla and Madlib and Stone's Throw tossed in for good measure. There are also elements of this project that very much remind me of weird Bandcamp beat tapes, as well as some vaporwave with how some of the samples are stretched out, chopped, repeated. There are some edits and sound palettes on this project that very much remind me of lo-fi music, of tape music. Some of the strange piano samples and instrumental manipulations throughout this record also read to me like an old Microphones album, or at least like the abstract hip-hop equivalent. I should probably also say if you're a huge fan of some of the hip-hop experimentation that used to go down on Anti-Con Records, you will most likely dig this too. It's a pretty unique and spectacular combination of sounds. Aesthetically, there's a lot here that also is pretty similar to Earl's Some Rap Songs last year, but executed in a wildly different fashion. As I said earlier, this project is 20 tracks and they all build up to 30 minutes or so in runtime, so a majority of the cuts here whiz by pretty quickly. And not to say their entrance or their exit at any point on this album is unimpressive, but the magic of this record can't really be boiled down to a handful of single tracks. Rather, all these small, short, collage-based cuts throughout this record build together into a larger, weirder collage that is ever-changing, moving from lo-fi haunting avant soul jazz to slow-mo vapor rap, where the rapper on the track has a very narrow low-pass filter on his voice, so it sounds like he's rapping on the other side of like a foot of concrete. Even though some of the instrumental and sonic changes within and between tracks can be kind of odd and jarring, it all flows together pretty nicely. It's like I'm constantly teleporting from one room to another, but it's all very cohesively happening within this Lynchian black lodge of sorts. Or like I'm endlessly flipping TV channels on a television that only features broadcasts from another dimension. At this point in the review, I would start pulling out certain tracks and saying, this song sounds like this, and this track does this, and this track features this. But as I said, there's not really a whole lot that can be gained by observing or explaining 1, 2, 3, or 4 single tracks on this album. The watery guitars, incredibly wide variety of beats, the tinny bass, the monotone rappers, the grimy horns and weird samples and interludes, they all melt into each other pretty effectively to create this very subtle but freakish vibe that is equal parts relaxing, introspective and personal, but also like out of body and transcendent. I know current day on the music market there is a lot of value put on music that just creates a vibe, is a little wavy, trippy trap music, alternative R&B, just playlists that create a nice, pleasant sensation. When I'm trying to reach that wavelength, this is a record I would much rather do that with. Because while I can put this record on and kind of lay back and chill and not have to dive too deeply into any one thing happening because nothing lasts all that long anyway, this project does stay consistently stimulating and intriguing and beautiful. It's ear candy for those who want to hang out in the candy aisle where only the weird candies are, like Mambas and carob raisins and popcorn jelly bellies and pickled flavored mints. My biggest nitpick on this record is of the elements that are a bit more obvious and accessible in the soul and the hip-hop regions of the album. They do come off a bit derivative and are obviously inspired by the likes of Odd Future. Also, some of the guest features on this record, calling them features is kind of generous in my opinion, especially since many of their voices are sort of treated just like another piece of sound or instrumentation or a sample on any given track here. I would love to hear a project like this in the future where maybe some of the singers and rappers appearing on it are a bit more of a showstopper, more interesting. But still, as is, A Quiet Farwell is a pretty fantastic and adventurous listen. I would even argue inventive in its combination of sounds and influences and how it executes them. I'm definitely in love with this record. If you are a more adventurous listener who wants to hear the current underground of hip-hop music fed through the most abstract meat grinder, then give this thing a shot. I'm feeling a decent to strong 8 on this. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Slauson Malone, A Quiet Farwell, forever.